Hi there and welcome to this video about global variables in ELC. Now so far we've used local variables, that is variables that we declare with a local keyword and we give them a name, and then within the function that we've declared them we can use them to assign values to them or to print out their values or to pass them as parameters to other functions or in calculations, etc. But that's all within the function that they've been declared, or where they were declared. Now if we take this as an example here, we've got the local keyword here and we've declared a variable called test and we're saying let test equal 4. So that's fine, and if I was to check this it would say that it's all good, that's fine. However, what happens if within this function here I'd like to do this, so let test equal 6. Now when I run that, it's going to say, well, hold it, I found a problem here and we cannot find a variable called test near the let statement. So basically what it's saying is, down here it's got this test here and it's trying to assign a value to it, but it can't because it doesn't understand this variable because it's outside of where it's been declared, so it doesn't recognize it. So we can see that that's not allowed. So one of the things that we can do here we could pass test as a parameter to the check variable function. That's one way of doing this. But we could also create test as a global variable instead. So if I take this out of here, okay, and I'm going to paste it up here instead, okay, and instead of local we're going to call this global. Okay, now if I check that now, we can see that it's worked. And what it's allowing me to do is to use a let statement here for the test variable, even though test isn't declared inside of start. So I'm actually able to do that. So if I run this in here, okay, and let's say let test equals 6 in there, and again it's going to say that that's fine. So as an example, what I could do here is do let's say a GFX write. So I might do right line. Okay, and if I copy that, okay, and then underneath here I'm going to need to actually call the function. Okay, and actually run that. Okay, then it's going to print 4 to the screen followed by 6. Okay, so the idea is here, if we run through our program, it's saying let test equal 4 and it writes that to the screen. Then we call check variable, so it comes down into check variable, sets it to 6 and then writes that to the screen. But we can see that we're able to access and manipulate the values of variables, in this case, for a variable that's not actually declared inside of the function because it's global. So that's the idea of a global variable, is to create a variable that's available to more than one function on your page at any one time. But let's see what the boundaries are of what we can do this. I've often sort of said to you that one of the things you should try and do with your programs to understand them better is to perhaps try and break them a little bit. So let's sort of see what happens if we do the following. So if I try to declare a global variable inside of a local function. Okay, so it says, right, you can't declare a new global variable within a function. Use local to define a local variable or move the global outside the function. Okay, so it's telling us to move that outside. So we can do that. So what if I did this? So will that work? If I'm able to declare a variable outside of my functions, am I able to use a let statement? Well, it's saying here, so found a problem near line 4, expected a global or function keyword but found let. So it's saying that no, you can't use a let outside of the functions. So we can declare a variable outside of these functions, but we can't actually manipulate it outside of the functions. So just by doing that, hopefully we start to understand what we can do with global variables a little bit better than perhaps we otherwise would. So we can declare them outside of functions. We try and declare them at the top here. Let's just see what happens if I declare one perhaps here. Okay, so found a problem near line 7, cannot find variable called test near the let statement. So what's actually happening there is that I've got line 7 here, okay, and it's asking for, or it's trying to access the variable called test, but that's not been declared yet because it should have been declared at the top. So it's not an issue with me actually declaring it lower down the page, but it does cause some issues in terms of where it's been declared, in terms of which lines in my program get accessed first or compiled first. So if I set it there, then that means, or set all my global variables at the top, it means that they're available to all of the functions, not just the ones after where it's been declared. So it makes much more sense to keep all your global variables in one place at the top. But hopefully that's made global variables make a little bit more sense, and hopefully you'll be able to put them to good use in your programs.